Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K Hunting Gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and tonight I am joined by a wonderful, wonderful individual for all the work that he does. Some of you might know him as the voice of Buster Bair from Carbon Unwind, as my children do, and some of you might know him as the great auctioneer for all the different conservation groups that are raising money for wildlife and wild things here in this country. I got just a wonderful treat for y'all tonight, and that is John Bair, the auctioneer from Utah, everybody. Give it up for John Bair tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I'm tickled to be with you. It's really an honor to be on your podcast.
Oh, well, it is an honor to have you on here. And anytime that we get to talk hunting and get to talk about just the good old life, you know, living that pure good life is what we're all about here at the Soulful Hunter. So really what we also with our mission is we are on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure. And there's something special about hunting that all my listeners, you've heard me say this before, there's something special about hunting that can't be touched by anything else. And
that's right. I agree.
The taking a life is special, but going out and having to earn that to get to that point teaches you so much, grows you so much, and at the same time we respect that animal and the life that we take and all that. So tonight's episode, we are diving into predator hunting and how and why using predator hunting as a recruitment tool to get people involved. And then we're also going to dive into some, coyote predator hunting 101 tips and tactics, because at the end of the day, I do this podcast because I need to get more information. And so I figured I'd reach out to all the professionals out there and get them going. So, hey, John, thank you so much. Take us a little backstory from you. Have you always been a predator hunter? Like, was that the get-go?
Well, I've always been interested in predator hunting ever since I was a little kid. My dad, my grandpa, my great-grandpa, everybody was in the livestock business. And so predators were kind of an issue that we dealt with. We didn't hunt them just for fun, although it's always been fun. But, predators were always kind of the enemy to the family business. And so there was times where it was more of a business deal than just for fun. But yeah, I've always loved to hunt predators ever since I can remember. I remember my dad way before the days of fancy camouflage and, electronic game calls. We'd go out and sit on the hill in the brush, and Dad would always tell me, hold still. And if he could see you move, he'd always tell me a coyote, he says, don't care as much about the color you're wearing as much about the movement. And if you'll hold still, he says, they'll come right up to you. And boy, I remember if he could see me move, man, he'd give me a hard time. And so I learned to sit very, very still. It'd always tell me downwind and hold still is the best camouflage there is. And so, yeah, I learned it from a very young age to sit still, and you have to move real slow. And, those are some of the earliest lessons I learned about hunting from my dad, was those kind of things, predator hunting. And, it was so exciting. He'd always tell me, if you can hunt predators, you can hunt anything.
Dude, yes, I totally agree with you. And that's why I feel like for me to get better at hunting, I got to get better at hunting coyotes. There's something about it, man. Like, I have a beautiful winter coyote here hanging on my wall. I'm going to show that to you. That
Oh yeah.
just a beautiful pelt. All you listeners, I wish you could see right now, but it's one that I wish I had more coyote pelts that I could hang in my kids' rooms. They're always asking me for it and stuff like that. But let's talk about the predator management. Let's talk about it being a recruiting tool. I was always a Second Amendment fan. I'm a pro Second Amendment. That's how I vote. That's, if
Yep.
you take that away, everything else crumbles. So here
I
I
agree
was,
100%.
yeah, here I was being pro gun, and then I opened up and I was like, oh, dude, I can buy an AR-15. Sweet. I want to buy an AR-15, and then I was starting to shoot paper and a little steel, and you're like, okay, well, it's time to shoot something different. And so decided to take my hunter safety, knowing that I could hunt coyotes year round. Here in the state of Washington, it's year round. You got to have a big game tag or a small game tag, but after that, it's good to go. And so, you know, I gave up snowboarding, I gave up rock climbing, whatever it was. I was out there sitting by myself and not getting anything to return. It was so frustrating, but I have the itch, and so I remember I used it to talk my buddy into to joining me and becoming a hunter through coyote hunting, and he just this last spring killed his very first coyote after it being like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And it has got to be one of the most frustrating and yet rewarding things. I feel like you being an ultimate predator when you get to trick an animal to come to you, and
Yep.
especially trick a predator to come to you, is like, that's a big deal.
I'll tell you, when I started hunting predators by myself and didn't have my dad to go with me, when I got a little older and moved away and moved up to the city, and I'd still go down on the weekends every chance I could, hunt with my dad, and we'd go out on the desert and coyote hunt, go up in the mountains and coyote hunt, or just around town anywhere we could. And what people need to realize is, like you said, first off, you can do it year round, but the coyotes are different times of the year. Like this time of year, we're playing, just pretty much distress sounds. I'm playing rabbit sounds. I'm playing bird distress sounds, or some pup distress sounds. Work good all year long. In the spring and the summer, I don't hardly ever play a rabbit sound. I play, pup distress sounds. I play vocals. I howl at them. I bark at them, and you play on the territorial aspect of their denning season and that. And so there's a few things there to learn about, what time of the year and what sounds to use. And also you got to remember, like right now, I mean, it's, what is this, first part of October right now?
Yep.
First part of October by right now. And, the coyote population is as high right now as it'll be all year. So this is a great time to get out, because you got the young of the year, the pups of this year that are out running around, that aren't too smart, they aren't too educated, and they're fairly, if you can call a coyote easy to call in now, is probably as easy a time as there is to call one in. When you get hunting them in the spring and in the summer, that's when the population is at its lowest point, because they've been hunted all year, and the new batch of pups hasn't grown up yet, and so that's when they're at their lowest point. That's also one of my favorite times, just because how they react. So don't get frustrated. I'd say this to guys, that I have people contact me all the time saying, I'm having a hard time getting in. I've been out for 2 days and haven't called one in. Well, I go out all the time and have dry stands and don't call them in. Some days are great and they're running you over, and some days you wonder, what's going on.
Right.
Uh, I would say this: the way you learn the most about coyotes and about coyote hunting is scouting, just like deer, just like elk, whatever it is you're hunting. You got to go out and you got to scout. You got to find places where there's coyotes. Look for tracks in the road, in the dirt. Look for scat in the road. I go out at night with my Fox Pro and howl and play the siren and listen for them to howl back at me. And I'll sit there. I'll get up on a spot where I can oversee a lot of sagebrush country or canyon or someplace where it looks like coyote country, and I'll play the howler and the siren a couple times, and I'll sit there for 10 minutes and see if anything will answer me. And So don't be afraid to go out and look, because a lot of times you'll think, well, this looks like a great place for a coyote, and you'll call it and call it and call it. There's spots I've called every year for 10 years and never called in a coyote, and it looks just like the other spots where I call them in all the time, but for some reason they're just not there. And
Right.
so I think a lot of times we're calling to empty country. So don't be afraid to go out, do a little scout, and look for tracks, talk to farmers, talk to ranchers, and find out where they're hearing them, where they're seeing them.
Okay.
And you've got to have coyotes to call to before they'll come to you.
Okay, so that I got to jump in here because I think that was my biggest frustration, and I legit for like 2 years until it just like clicked in my brain. Now you got to remember, listeners and John, that I had zero experience in the woods as far as hunting. So I
Sure.
remember going out and being like, well, this has a vantage point, or I have something behind me, or all this,
Yeah.
and I wasn't getting any responses. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, hey, coyote tracks. Okay, this might be a good spot. Or there's some, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, if you're not going to be able to kill them if you never go to where they actually are.
Yep.
And as simple as that sounds, I think people forget that a lot of times. They expect coyotes to be like rats. You can find them anywhere type thing. Or
And there are places where the coyotes are just so thick that about every place it looks like there'll be a coyote, there's probably a coyote. I've hunted in Canada on the Blood Indian Reserve up there, and those coyotes up there, they're huge, they're giant, they're white as white can be. It looks like you're calling in a herd of polar bears. And to see 3 or 4 of those things come running up the creek bottom to you, and it seemed like everywhere we went, the coyotes were there. But then also you come down here in Utah, where I'm at, we have a bounty on them here. I mean, we're pretty mean to our coyotes here in Utah. And some days you'll go out and it's a great day, and other times you'll go out where you've had success before and you just don't see them, and especially a little later on in the year after they've been hunted a little bit and the trappers have been after them a little bit, it can be tougher. But like I say, I would tell people, yeah, you got to have a call, yes, you got to have a gun, yeah, but you also need to pay attention to the sign and do a little scouting. If I don't have enough time to maybe go call, or I'm not sure where I want to go, I'll sometimes, especially in the summer, I'll go up right before dark and locate for 2 or 3 nights and get several pairs, figured out where I want to call, 4 or 5 stands up here in the mountains where I want to call. And then on the weekend, I'll go stay out all night and hunt them, or go Saturday morning and hunt them. And,
you're getting me all
sometimes I'll
excited right
scout
now.
for 3 nights before I go. So.
That is so cool. I like that. And I think, it shows a lot of respect for the animal in which you're pursuing. There's so much scouting, preseason scouting that's done for big game animals. I think little game animals, people are just like, we'll go out on a Saturday. If we get one, we get one, go back home. But you're treating it more like your time is valuable, that animal's valuable. You're going to put in the work.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know. It's just, I enjoy, a lot of guys spend all summer scouting for deer and finding the big deer and that. And I enjoy going out and locating and scouting for coyotes. And, it's pretty rewarding when you finally get one to howl at you just across the canyon, and you think, all right, this setup's going to work. I know where to set. If, I know where to come in, and most likely where they're going to come from. And then you kind of watch the wind or check the wind and see, all right, the wind's going down this canyon at this time of night. And so you kind of start to formulate your plan of attack. And, kind of going back to using this as a recruiting tool, if you take your friends, your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, whoever it is out, and teach them, this is where the coyote lives. This is, the wind directions going this way. Here's the cover. Here's where they're probably going to be. Here's what we need to set up here so we can see. All that plays into teaching them to be a hunter, whether it's for deer, for elk, for anything like that. It all teaches them, respect for the outdoors, for the woods, for the fields, wherever they're at. And when you put that much, effort and thought into a setup, first off, you're going to be more successful, and you're going to learn, a lot more about what you're doing. And that's a great, that's a great way to teach, you know, anybody really how to hunt. I took my youngest daughter when she killed her first coyote. We were in Colorado, and I told her, I said, it was a great big basin. My boy, my son-in-law, and my daughter all killed their first coyote in that exact same basin. And then me and Jana went out there this summer and killed another one. I told her, I says, this place is money. I've only called here like once or twice and not killed one. And 2 minutes in, we had one run us over and shot it. But I told my daughter while we were sitting up there, I says, now I'm going to sit you right here. I said, I think the coyote's probably going to be out there. The wind's coming this direction. So the coyote, I said, I bet the coyote comes right up over the end of this little finger, and you just be ready. And 10 minutes in, a coyote come trotting up over the end of the little knob we were on, and she was cool as could be. And I kept telling her, you got him? She's like, oh, I got him, Dad. I got him. She touched it off, and that coyote crumbled, and man, then she got excited. She was shaking and about dropped her gun, and it was awesome. You know, it was awesome.
I love it. I love it. So I got to share a story real quick just because it's so fresh in my mind, but I want to dive more into the recruitment aspect. So my wife, we've been married, man, I hope I don't, 7 years, a little over 7 years.
Don't be forgetting that 7 years in or 20 years.
Right. So we, at this point, we were married probably like, what, one year and a half, maybe. We were approaching our second anniversary, and I had just finished my hunter safety course. It was maybe month April or May, and I'm like, babe, let's go coyote hunting. She's like, what? No, I don't really want to. I was like, I'll take you to a place that has cell service, put her in some big old military surplus camouflage, sat her down next to me. She browsed her cell phone. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had my AR and I had a hand call. And I sat up on this hill and I just started blowing it as long as I could. And everything I read said, wait 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, get up and go. And legitimately, I sat down thinking, okay, the only place a coyote's going to pop out is down here in this draw right in between this little thicket and this knoll. And sure enough, at the 30-minute mark, a coyote popped up on that knoll. And I was so in shock that I was like, babe, like, we got a coyote. I didn't even think about shooting it at first. and I was like, and I just got the shakes. Like, oh man, the juices were flowing. I ended up putting my gun on it, and I was shaking so much I shot and missed. But that night, I remember just laying in bed and being like, oh my gosh, this was the best thing ever. So that was my very first time calling coyotes. I called one in, didn't kill it, and then after that, it was like a dry spell for like a year and a half. But I tell you, that one time that a coyote comes in, it hooks you. And
there's something about it being a predator. There's just something about calling predators. We've had, the only mountain lion I've called in was when I was turkey hunting. I know guys that have called in several of them, but the only mountain lion we ever called in was when we was turkey hunting. And it's just, there's something about seeing a predator, just peek up, and we just saw his head pop up over a bush and look at us, and man, your heart just jumps and your blood runs cold. And it's just, and even still, Saturday, I believe it was just this last Saturday, me and Jan were out on the desert, and she wanted to go shark tooth hunting. And believe it or not, we got shark teeth in the desert out here in Utah. So from prehistoric times. So she always wants to go shark tooth hunting. We always take the guns in the call, and first thing in the morning, she says, well, let's make a stand right here, just right off the road. I'm like, sure, looks like a good spot. There's a little railroad that ran through there and kind of a creek bottom. And we went out there, and 9 minutes in, here come a coyote trotting up to me. And so, I shot it. And even then, I don't know how many coyotes I've shot. And, just kind of sitting there watching that coyote come in. I mean, my hands still get the quivers, as I'm flipping the gun off safety. And the first thing goes through my head is do not miss, or she will give you all kinds of grief for this. And so, we shoot the coyote, and it was it was awesome. Then of course she gives me a hard time for dog hogging her and that, but
Right, like
that's
that was my
that's
dog.
okay.
Come on, man.
That's right. It came to my side. It's but it's just it never gets old. It never gets old. And if you find something in the outdoors, some guys, I got buddies that are just diehard fly fishermen, diehard, duck hunters, deer hunters, and it just that excitement they get from it just never gets old to them. And that's how predator hunting's been for me. It just never gets old, and it's just as fun the next time as it was the first time.
Right.
And I think if as kind of getting back to the recruitment part of it, I got a call right there, a little hand call. I don't know if you can see it.
I can. That's awesome.
But I've got several hand calls. This one was made for me by a guy down in Sanpete County where I grew up, and Kerry Carver, who's well known all across the country for his hand calls. He made this call for me, and just kind of a cottontail sound. You can go to Sportsman's Warehouse and buy something like that for $20. And a lot of guys will use elk calls, all year to bugle elk, just a diaphragm like that.
Yep.
You can make about any coyote sound or any distress sound on a diaphragm. You just take the elk diaphragm and turn it over so the long reed is on the bottom, and those are like $3. That is all I'm telling you. With those two things right there, you do not have. Now I work with Fox Pro, and I have some expensive calls, and you can buy electronic calls from $150 up to $700.
Right.
I'm here to tell you, there's a lot of guys that kill a lot of coyotes with that right there, and your deer rifle or your shotgun that you hunt ducks with. I did a contest here a couple of weeks ago out in Nevada. Me and a buddy of mine. We didn't do very good in the contest, but we had a lot of fun. Trying to get coyotes in, all of them into shotgun range. And if you have a shotgun with like BB shot, that's a great coyote gun. If you have whether it's a 223 like an AR like you got,
Yep.
or whether you've got a 270. I shot my first coyote with a 7mm mag because that's all I had. That's all I had. Now that's a lot of gun for a coyote.
I was gonna say it
a lot
died very quick. I bet.
Yeah, any deer rifle, anything like that. So it's not a huge investment to go give it a whirl. And that's the great thing about it. You got a weekend, you want to try some fun stuff with a buddy that wants to, hey, I've never been hunting, or a kid that's like, hey, I want to go hunting. Well, it's not deer season, it's not duck season, it's not pheasant season. You know what? Swing by Sportsman's or Cabela's or your local Bob's Sporting Goods, get one of those, and you can take them hunting all year long.
Yeah.
All year long.
It hooks them. It hooks them. Okay, so let's talk about this. I had a conversation with a really great person up here in the state of Washington who is a newer hunter. And, you hear this whole talk amongst hunters where it's like, if you shoot it and kill it, you eat it. And then here comes, well, a lot of people don't kill or eat coyotes, and Remy Warren and Steve Ranella did on an episode of Meat Eater, and they didn't like it. Yeah. And
they said they taste like they smell, so I'm not interested. So
right. And so how do you go about talking about taking the life of an animal and yet it's still being a positive for hunting and hunters and all of that? How do you go about addressing that topic?
Well, there's several reasons why I am a firm believer in predator management. First off, here in Utah, we have done tons and tons and tons of habitat work, water work, all kinds of conservation work to try to help our deer herd, our elk herd, our turkeys, our sheep, all those things. We've got now to where we are going out and catching fawns like the first day or two they're born. We put a collar on them that grows with the fawn, and that collar sends a signal off every so often, letting us know where it's at. And then if the fawn doesn't move for so long, it sends a mortality signal. The biologist runs out and sees what killed the fawn. That lets us know, how far they're traveling, what's killing them.
Yep.
Just all kinds of great information. Well, The leading cause of mortality for mule deer fawns is predators, coyotes. And it would surprise you how many areas have pretty high mortality from black bears. Pretty high mortality. Fawns have high mortality from mountain lions. And we know that if you have a deer herd where you have a healthy fawn recruitment, which means the fawns are growing up, but your deer herd isn't growing and your adult survival isn't great, your adult female survival isn't great, well, that points to predators. That means lions are getting a big chunk of them, and you got to look at your habitat too. If you have good habitat and all things, point to you should be growing deer, but you're not, you got a lion problem or you got a bear problem, and you always have a coyote problem, it seems like. So if you will hunt predators, people say, well, in the spring and the summer when the hides aren't good, you're kind of wasting the coyote. Well, for every coyote you shoot, if you ever find a coyote den, they're full of fawn legs. They're full of fawn legs.
Interesting.
And oh yeah, and so for every coyote you shoot on the fawning grounds, you're saving some fawns and helping the deer herd. You can shoot. In fact, you have to shoot like 70% of the coyote population in an area for 3 years before it affects the coyote population.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I was going to bring up. I was like,
you want to talk about a resilient animal. If you go out and whack all the pups this year and that's fine. Mom and dad are just going to have that many more next year. And as long as there's rabbits and deer and mice and all the things for me, they're gonna breed like crazy, and they're gonna grow, they're gonna reproduce, and I'm here to tell you, you have a real hard time suppressing the numbers because they are an incredibly resilient species.
Right, and so that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you is talking about, and especially in today's world of fake news, what is actually being told that's accurate? So a lot of people say coyote hunters are not going to be able to make a dent in the population, and actually when you go out and hunt them and kill them, they'll actually breed more than if that was untouched, and so all I know is that when dogs have litters, they have a lot of pups, and they can have a lot of pups multiple times, so
yeah. Well, here's if you didn't hunt them, would the numbers just increase, or would they balance out? Well, Mother Nature, and this is a kind of a deep conversation, I guess, but Mother Nature doesn't manage on ebb and flow. Mother Nature manages on boom and bust. Okay, if we leave it all up to Mother Nature, the predator numbers will increase and overtake the ungulate numbers, the prey species numbers, until they crash. Well, then the predator numbers will follow a few years later. And then when the predator numbers crash, well, then the deer and the elk numbers and the sheep and everything else, so they will come back up. But if you leave all that up to Mother Nature, that cycle can take years and years and years and years and years.
Right.
And I mean, enough years that if your kids are born at their own end of that cycle, they may not see many deer.
Yeah.
So as conservationists, and the anti-hunters try to pin themselves as the conservationists. Hunters are the conservationists. Hunters are the conservationists. We have wildlife because we hunt wildlife. That's a fact.
Yep.
I'll argue that all day long with them. That's a whole nother podcast. But does it hurt the population to shoot a coyote? No, not at all. Does it increase the population to shoot a coyote? I don't really think it does. There's if I go in an area and shoot a pair of coyotes, sometimes, that canyon the next year, I won't find a pair. And then the year after that, there'll be a pair move in. Sometimes a pair move in the next year. But no, I don't think the coyote population's booming at all because we hunt them. Now, we keep a lot of pressure on them. And it's there. We have studies that have shown that if you put pressure on the coyotes in the fawning grounds, it helps the deer numbers.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it.
All right. So let me ask you this as far as your own personal perspective.
Sure.
If you were to recruit a new hunter and take him big game hunting for the first time or coyote hunting for the first time, what do you think is going to be more addictive to somebody who's never hunted?
Oh, I think that, well, honestly, I think that no, if you take them coyote hunting and they have success, or if you take them deer hunting and they have success, I think they're going to want to try every other kind of hunting that they can do because they're going to love it, and
Right.
they're gonna say, well, now I want to go coyote hunting, or now that I've shot a deer, what else can I hunt? You know,
Right.
so for me, I'll never forget the first time I saw a coyote come trotting out of the cedars, and I was sitting there with my dad, and we shot it, and that was, I think about that all the time. But I also think a lot about the time my dad come walking up after I'd shot a little 2-point mule deer with his 30-30, my first deer I ever killed, and what a big deal he made out of that. And so, I would say if you take them out and they have success, I'm going to say they're probably equally as addicting. Some people have something they favor a little more. Some guys are just deer nuts. Some guys are coyote predator nuts. Some guys love elk. But if I take my kid out and he shoots a deer, he's going to want to keep hunting deer, and he's probably going to want to try everything else he can. And I'd say the same is true with coyotes. So I'd say it's probably a toss up. If they have success and have a good time, and I show them a good time, they're going to want to keep growing their experiences, and then they're going to want to try it all.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. So I'm a physical education teacher. I teach middle school PE. And the whole concept of fitness and being a healthy person in your physical
Mm-hmm.
life, not everyone's going to love running. Not everyone's going to love basketball. Not everyone is going to love every aspect of something that you could do. The point is to get you to experience it so that you do find something that you fall in love with. And that is where we
Yeah.
as hunters can make the impact and not say, oh, well, you can't predator hunting or predator management's not good because blah blah blah, or no, I only hunt deer. So being in the business of recruiting and mentoring new hunters, the number one thing that I come across is that when I say, hey, okay, you're a new hunter, what do you want to hunt? People always say deer. Oh, I want to kill a deer. I want to kill a deer. And I'm always telling them, I'm like, okay, well, here in the state of Washington, you can actually shoot 2 black bears, and black bear opens August 1st. Deer season, depending on what weapon you're hunting, is not going to be till September or even October. So, like, get out and go hunt black bear. And as you're hunting black bear, you'll get to learn how to hunt these other animals, and you'll get to scout. And it's like cross training, which is completely lost in the world of athletics. I played college football. I also played college lacrosse, and I had opportunities to play baseball. If I wouldn't have played multiple sports, I wouldn't have been able to like expand my athletic ability and become a better athlete. I want to become a better hunter. It doesn't matter whether it's a better coyote hunter, deer, elk, big game, upland bird, whatever. It's getting out in nature where you get to heal yourself, you get to be connected with the universe and all this stuff that's the beauty of life, man. Get out and live.
I agree with you 100%. And I'll tell you, I don't hunt coyotes now to save the deer. I don't, if the number of coyotes I shoot in a year, and that goes way up and down depending on how much I hunt. If I didn't shoot those coyotes, the deer herd probably isn't gonna feel it one way or another, because somebody else would probably shoot those coyotes, right?
Yep.
I hunt coyotes because I love to. That's the number one reason. I hunt them because I love to. Uh, I got buddies that hunt ducks religiously. They live for it, and it's their passion. They love to do it, and once in a while I'll go with them, and it's cool. It's something different. Once in a while I'll take somebody coyote hunting with me that has fun. They like it. It's not, they're not obsessed with it like, me and some of my buddies are, but they enjoy it, and it's a great way, to learn and see other things going on out there. And it's a great way to get kids out and get them, a lot of different experiences in the field. So, you know, deer tags in Utah, you don't get a deer tag every year. You got to draw. Even the general season deer tags you have to draw, and you don't get one every year.
Mm.
And I was actually in Washington. You probably have a wildlife commission, is that right? Or a board?
Yeah, Department of Fish and Wildlife. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I was on the Utah Wildlife Board that we set the rules and voted on all the rules and all that kind of stuff. And people would always come and say, well, my kid doesn't want to hunt now, or I can't get my kid to hunt because we didn't draw deer tag. Well, that's only 9 days out of the year.
Right.
And so I'd tell them, you know what? You can buy an over the counter spike elk tag. You can take your kid hunting elk. You can put them in for cow tags. You can take them pheasant hunting. We have youth pheasant programs. Duck hunting. We have a lot of ducks. We have a lot of water. Utah has some great duck hunting. You can take them small game hunting. You can take them coyote hunting. We got prairie dogs. You can take them prairie dog hunting.
And I'll tell you what, that is an absolute blast.
Yeah. So, it's a blast, and you can do it with a 22.
Right.
You don't have to have, you don't have to have a $300 permit. You don't have to have a $6,000 long range rifle, although I've shot some prairie dogs with my long range rifle. It's pretty fun. But, there's a lot of ways to get kids out hunting. Coyote hunt's just one of them that's year round.
I'm gonna jump.
There's always something. You mentioned bear hunting.
Yeah.
If you have a spring bear season, you take your kids out bear hunting. You want to talk work. You want to teach them how to work and how to have fun hunting. Bear hunting is it. It's a blast.
Dude, I just wrote an article for Bear Hunting Magazine this summer, and it's about using I call it black bears, the gateway to the backcountry. Everyone loves this Western style of hunting where you're backpacking in and, all that. I'm like, well, dude, go chase black bears in the alpine, in the blueberry fields, in the huckleberries, because the weather's amazing. It's addicting, it's money. I do want to challenge you on something that I keep hearing you say over and over, and talking about, and I think that as an adult onset hunter, this is what drove me nuts, is hearing people always say, hey, take a kid fishing, take a kid hunting. Well, there are adults out there who want to get into something,
Sure.
and yet their parents never taught them. I am being one of them, and now because I am a hunter, I also have 3 of my own children that are going to grow up in the hunting community. So you listeners out there, don't just think that it's only children. There is a whole world of people out there that are looking for community, that are looking for love, acceptance, and looking for something to really transform their life and give them some inspiration to become a better person.
You're spot on. And I remember talking to you at the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake, and I remember you telling us, that you consider yourself, you had a serious case of adult onset hunting, which is, which I love. I love that. And, I know quite a few guys that actually fit into that category, that some of them have gotten so involved that, it's just kind of taken over their life. That's their only hobby they care about now. It's turned into a lot more than just a hobby. But, a lot of people of all different ages get out and enjoy the experience. And, they're not as driven by, like some of the mule deer guys Utah has a lot of really, really serious mule deer hunters, and there's some really, really good mule deer hunters. They kill big, big bucks every year. Some of these guys, a lot of people, they'd love to shoot a big buck, but they look forward every year to getting out and going with their family, going with their friends. A lot of people would love to experience that and don't have the family to go with. And so as a friend, as a hunter that has friends that haven't had that experience, you're exactly right. We need to look for ways to get those people involved, whether it's deer hunting, duck hunting, and upland game and bird hunting, waterfowl hunting, is a really good way to do that. Because usually, you get some shooting in.
Yep.
You get to shoot more than once. Sometimes on deer hunt, it's one and you're done.
Right.
But, a lot of those things, that's a great way to introduce people to hunting, to shooting. I know guys that haven't really ever shot much.
Yeah.
Shot a gun maybe at Boy Scouts when they were a kid, and now they want to go hunting, and that's a great way to do it. So, but no, you're exactly right. We need to be aware of those people that, not just guys girls, not just kids. They can come from any demographic, any part of life that would love the opportunity to go hunting,
Yeah.
even if they don't, even if they don't have a tag or can't shoot themselves, or can't shoot the animal themselves. Take them with and let them be part of your experience, and that'll catch on.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. I got
that'll
a
catch.
I got a little surprise for all the listeners that haven't really let this cat out of the bag too much, but we're actually going to be starting a show for Carbon TV that is focused around hunting recruitment and how always having a new hunter either joining us for our tag or we're taking them out for their tag or maybe they're just seeing it for the very first time and all that. So that's going to be something coming up that really, really excited about. But I love it. I talked to Mark Boardman over at Vortex Optics, and he says that waterfowl hunting is probably the best animal to hunt for new hunters because if when you get to shoot a lot, and that's a lot of the fun for people. So
And it is, and a lot of times, if you got a good waterfowl hunter, you get all aspects of it. You get to shoot, you get a lot of action. A lot of times they'll have a good dog there with them. You get to see the dog work. You could have pretty mild weather. You could be in really cold weather. You get the whole range of experience there. So,
yeah,
that's kind of the same way with predator hunting. I've been hunting where it's dang hot. You can't imagine a coyote would ever show up because it's too warm in the middle of the day.
right.
I've also sat on stands where your fingers are so cold you can't feel the trigger. You can't hardly get the safety off. If something does show up, you go back to the truck, turn the truck on, the thermometer on the truck's saying it's. I think the coldest we ever called in was in Canada. It was -25. I shot a coyote at -25, and that
Wow,
was pretty freaking cold.
wow, that is
And that,
incredible.
yeah, that was. It's fun to look back and say that I did it. Uh, I don't know if I knew it was going to be -25 if I'd go do it again very many times, but but at least check that off the list.
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. One of the things that I do want to say is even when the pelts are not good, I love collecting coyote skulls. I Euro mount every
Yep,
coyote I get. And
that's all.
because it's special to me. And there's a lot of things like in I want to say the Mayan culture, the concept of dying three deaths, right?
Yeah,
You're born, and the first time you realize you're going to die, that you're no longer, that you're not immortal. That's your first death when you actually die, and then the last time your name is ever spoken again. And that's the three deaths. Well, I feel like okay, here is predator hunting. You're not going to eat the meat of a coyote. The pelt's not good to hang on your wall. What's the point? Well, because it's a challenge. It's life. It's nature. It's me versus them, and sometimes I come out the loser. Sometimes I come out the winner. But at the end of the day, when I get the opportunity to shoot one, that skull tells a story. And it sits on my whether it's on my desk over here or hanging on my wall. And my kids they want a coyote skull in their bedroom so bad, and that type of stuff is the memories, the campfire stories that just get people the feels, It's like, okay, I
oh
want to
yeah,
I want to try that. That sounds like a lot of fun or, you know.
and hunting predators, hunting coyotes. What affects. It's funny, and it's the same way with deer hunting. To watch people that have taken out how they react. Like my daughter, my youngest daughter, she killed one the first day I took her out, or the first chance. I shouldn't say I'd taken her out a couple times before, and she didn't have a chance to shoot. But the first good shot that she got on a coyote, she dumped it. I mean, she thumped him. I have taken, my boy, uh, who's in the Air Force now. He's a good shooter. He's a really good shooter. He missed several before he killed one. My son-in-law killed the first one he shot at. I took a U.S. congressman one time, and he's a pretty good friend of mine, and we called one in, and the first one came in, and it was kind of quick in and out, and it had to be kind of a quick shot, and I shot that one, and then the next time next stand. We called another one in. It came in, sit down about 50 yards and looked at the call and cocked its head. And I thought, he's going to shoot over it. Everybody gets excited and shoots over it. And he got excited and shot over it. And he was just, I mean, he wasn't, of course, everybody you don't want to miss, but he was like, oh, I said, I can't believe how exciting that was, and I was shaking. And it was just, but we still, when we get together, he still talks about that. You remember that coyote was just sitting there looking at us and I shot right over the top of it. Like, yeah, he's, believe it or not, sometimes, I've shot him. I don't know how many, I've shot a lot of coyotes. And I still get excited and shoot over them. And it's just, so it's fun to see, that adrenaline get to people.
Yeah.
It's fun to see people get so fired up about something. My boy, when he shot his first deer, when we walked up to it, he was so excited. He about dropped his gun. I had to take his gun. He couldn't get his binoculars off. His hands were shaking so bad. And, the deer on the wall back there behind me that you can see.
Yep.
When I shot that deer and he ran off down through the brush, I shot him with my bow and he ran off down through the brush. It took us a little while to find him. When the kid was with us helping us out, hollered that he could see that deer down in the brush. We knew he was pretty good size, and I went running down there. I dropped my bow about 20 yards from that deer. Didn't even realize it. I was so excited to get to that deer.
Wow.
I dropped my bow, and I think I dropped my binoculars right there too. And then they're like, guys are looking around. We want to start taking pictures. Where's your bow? I don't know. I got to go find it. I was so excited. And I would, that was only 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I was probably 35 years old when I shot that deer. And, I'd shot a few deer by then and had some pretty fun experiences. And it was still so exciting that when I'm walking up to the deer, I just dropped my bow in the brush because I was so excited to get up to that deer.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, we need to, get thinking about how we can share those experiences with the people we know. Not like you say, not just the kids, but with, what family members do we have that would just love to go do that? What friends do we have? What neighbors? What coworkers?
Right.
That that we really could change their life by sharing some of those experiences, even if they don't have a tag and don't have the gun to shoot. Take them along and let them go on a hunt with you and see what it's all about, because you could well be changing a life for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
how much better of a world would we be in right now if there was more people that valued life?
Yeah.
And Jana talks all the time, it's not kind of her catchphrase.
It's about living.
Hunting is about living. And and of course, hunting is about going out there and shooting the animal. And, there's a life that animal gives their life that we might have those experiences. But hunting is about, she's right, hunting is about living. It's about us living. It's about us making the most of our life. It's about us respecting life. It's about us understanding the cycle of life. And I'll tell you this, I just throw this out there. When I was talking to my buddy, Robbie at Blood Origins, when me and him were talking, when my Blood Origins episode came out, people, the anti-hunters will say, well, it's so cruel. It's so mean. It's this, if you're around nature very much, and I grew up on a farm, I grew up on a sheep ranch. Regulated hunting is the most humane part of the food chain. It's the most humane part of the cycle of life. A well-placed bullet, a well-placed arrow, it's over, and it's not inhumane. It's not cruel. If you watch how you watch a lion run down a deer,
that's brutal,
and finish it. It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. If you watch a coyote run down a deer fawn and start eating it before it's dead, or how they kill them, or you watch the African wild dogs and the hyenas, how they will run down a wildebeest, or how they'll gang up on even a water buffalo and take them down. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
And those regulated hunting, ethical hunting is by far the most humane part of the circle of life, and nobody will ever convince me, any other way.
Yeah, I love it. You know, I love hearing you talk about Jana. It's about living. I know your saying is we have wildlife because we hunt wildlife.
Exactly right.
I'm just over here being like, this is the best thing ever. How can you not want to try this? You know, I always use the phrase on this podcast a lot is like, how many times have you gone to a restaurant and really loved it? What do you do about after you leave that restaurant? You tell everyone. You're like,
Yeah,
guys,
you
this
tell everybody.
restaurant was the best. You got to try it out. Hunters need to do the same thing. Dude, hunting
Exactly.
is the best thing ever. I I I love it. I plan for it. I live for it. I do not want it ever to get in the way of my marriage or my children or my job. However, with that being said, I take it and I treat it like it is my job because, you know, the,
Yep.
taking a life is very very special. But at the same time, and not to use the word but to negate what I said before that, and at the same time, it will bring you so much in this life that you don't even know. Tapping into things in nature, in yourself, overcoming fears, walking up on an animal for the very first time creeped me out. I didn't know that animals died with their eyes open, because how often in life do we truly deal with death on a day-to-day basis? And so to see that and to deal with that, I was like, wow, this is absolutely incredible.
And one thing we need to teach people also, along with how to hunt. Not just how to hunt deer, how to hunt ducks, how to hunt coyotes. Like I said, and that kind of that catchphrase of mine, that we have wildlife because we hunt wildlife. Where that came from was in one of my wildlife board meetings when I was on the state wildlife board. We were in a meeting about a crow hunt. We were going to institute a crow hunt, and the anti-hunters came out just losing their marbles, thinking, we're going to shoot all the crows. We ain't going to have no crows. Well, we're one of like 3 states at the time that didn't have a crow hunt, and that we're one of like 3 states that didn't have a crow hunt, and everybody else has tons of crows. We wanted a crow hunt so that we could manage some depredation issues in some orchards. Okay. And I told these guys are standing up, we ain't going to have any wildlife left. And I kind of, I got a little frustrated. And you try to remain professional, but sometimes it's hard. And I said, you know what? We have wildlife because we hunt wildlife. Well, they put that in the papers and ran wild with it. And everybody thought I know all the papers, and that everybody thought I was an idiot because I said that. Well, you get thinking about it. In the state of Utah, the bighorn sheep, at one time we had 5 or 6 permits. Now we have 50 or 60 at least. We had no mountain goats. Now we have tons of mountain goats. Okay. We had no wild turkeys. Now we have wild turkeys everywhere. Everywhere. We're putting new bighorn sheep, excuse me, on different units every year. We're putting mountain goats on different units. We have, big bucks on some amazing deer units. All of these things are because of hunters. This is all the efforts of hunters. This is paid for by hunters. The work's done by hunters. It's funded. All the research is done by hunters. Utah was one of the first states here a few years ago that successfully transplanted mule deer. And, everybody thought, well, you can't do that. We tried it for years. Well, let's try it a little different. Well, what do you know? It worked pretty well. And so now, if we have deer in certain areas that get in trouble, we transplant them, move them to another area. And if things are done right, it's pretty successful. And all of that is done because of hunters. Okay. So I'm not just a hunter. I'm proud to be a hunter.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what sportsmen do for wildlife. And I'm telling you, it's a fact. We have wildlife because we hunt wildlife. If it wasn't for conservation dollars, for the love of wildlife that the hunters have, we would have a lot less of it. And people can argue all they want and think it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But when you put a value, okay, and I'm talking a dollar value on wildlife, there is always somebody that will protect it to make sure it's there. And people say, well, that just, that doesn't seem right that we're selling tags and we're selling. Well, you know what? Bighorn sheep, when I can go to the sheep show in Reno and sell a bighorn sheep tag for $480,000. And I sold the Montana tag for $480,000.
Wow.
Uh, Montana or Alberta, I forget which one. All that money goes back on the ground for the sheep program, okay? And all of a sudden the state realizes that funds a lot of projects. Okay?
Yeah.
That funds a lot. $500,000 is a lot of money. All of a sudden those sheep become very valuable, and all of a sudden people start thinking, well, maybe we need to protect them. Maybe we need to make sure they're there because they are ultimately the means to their own success. And so, hunting's fun. Hunting's awesome. I think about hunting all day, every day. Uh, Hunting is very important to the wildlife. It's not just important to me as a hunter. It's not just important to you as a hunter. It's not just important to the guys working at Cabela's for their livelihood. Hunting above and beyond is important to the wildlife. And so that, I think, is one of the things we need to teach these, whether it's our buddies at work or whether it's our kids when we have them out, whether it's deer, elk, coyote hunting, whatever it is. Hunting is important to the wildlife. It's not, we're not there to diminish the wildlife. We're not there to destroy a species or anything like that. It's all about balance. Like I said before, Mother Nature balance. Her management system is boom and bust. We want a little more ebb and flow. We try to level out the low spots and keep everything, healthy as much as we can all the time, so that we have all those things to enjoy. And that's possible because of hunters. So
Man.
anyway, that's a little bit long-winded, but there you
Well,
go.
yeah. So just instead of like going off on this topic too much more, I do want to say one of the biggest things that ever stood out to me is when Robbie Kroger of Blood Origins, your buddy,
Uh-huh.
said to me, he goes, there was a white rhino in Africa that either needed to be killed or it needed to be saved. And so they put it up for auction, and they said, whoever wants it, you can take it on a hunt, you can set it free, you can relocate it, whatever it wants. And it was the anti-hunters versus the hunters, and who ended up saving that wildlife ended up going for a hunt, but that money that paid the price for that animal's life brought in so much money for so much other conservation
Yep.
efforts.
I know the guy that bought that, and that's another thing that rhinos, when they get old, and that they actually are. It's very counterproductive to the rhino population to have old bulls that are mean, that won't breed no more, that kind of actually prevent the younger, healthier animals from reproducing. So you let hunters buy those permits, take out the old bulls that are actually the trophies that they want, that helps the herd, or whatever I don't know what you call a group of rhinos. It's a herd of rhinos, whatever they are, a
Right.
gaggle of rhinos, whatever it is. It helps the population and also provides money to help manage them in the future. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. That
So
is so awesome. You know, we could keep this conversation going on for a long time, and I think I really want to I want to have you back on for another episode. Uh,
sure.
I do. If you would do me the honor, I would love to go coyote hunting with you sometime.
Of course, man. We'll make it happen. I love to hunt coyotes in all different parts of the country. I've never hunted Washington. So one of these days, we'll do it. I was actually in Washington not too long ago, just barely, while we were fishing for sturgeon on the Columbian River. So I actually,
I know
got out of the truck a couple times in Washington. That's about it.
when I saw Jana made her way up here, I'm like, come on, Jana, come just a little further north, or let me know and I'll come meet you next time.
Yeah, but absolutely, man. No, I'd love to do that. I'd love to come up and see your country and scratch a Washington coyote off the bucket list. And yeah, man, let's do it.
I love it. There's so much more to talk about, but just for the sake of time, we're going to wrap this episode up. John, thank you so much for being just a force within the conservation world, within the hunting world, and everything that you do, from your auctions to being the voice of Buster Bear. I loved your Blood Origins episode. By the way, if you guys are wondering what Buster Bear is, it is the new app from Carbon TV that they released to help with going to sleep, relaxing, meditation, all that. It's called Carbon Unwind. You can find it on Apple Store and What is I'm an iPhone guy. I don't even know what is it
Yeah,
called.
that's me too. All mine come off the App Store. But yeah, it's there's hunting stories on there. There's guided meditation. If you're into all that kind of stuff to help you relax and help you sleep, or if your kids uh, want you to read them a story and you're needing a little help there, you can get it and turn on Buster Bear, and I will read them a story and put them to sleep. So
My boys love Buster Bear. They love it. They love it. So, all right. Well, John, thank you so much. Hey, if anyone has questions for you or wants to have some follow-up dialogue, where can they get a hold of you at?
you can find me at just John Bair on Facebook or John Bair Auctioneer on Instagram. Bair is how you spell my last name. And yeah, and so reach out to me on social media, and be
Good.
more than happy to talk with you about anything you want to chat about. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode as much as I did recording it with my man John Bear. Go check him out. Check out all the things that he's doing. If you've never made it to any of the conservation expos, whether it's the Mule Deer Foundation Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City, Wild Sheep, the Safari Club International Show, all these things. If you've never been to one of those, go check it out because you will be blown away at how much people truly love the outdoors and love hunting and how much they are willing to give back to make sure it lasts for generations to come. So, excuse me, go do that. Go let John know that you love this episode. And as always, everybody, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.